to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and the other day on Facebook I posted a picture of me sitting in my car sewing. Well, I had a lot of comments on that picture, but one comment I did have is everyone wanted to know what was on my lap. It looks like a little suitcase. What is it? Where did you get it? How did you make it? Please show us. So today, I'm going to do just that. So the little box that I'm referring to is this little box, and this is my travel box. Now at the moment I am doing English paper piecing, so inside is everything that I need to do my English paper piecing. Now this box is not for me to store all of the pieces, it's just enough for me to travel with. So what I will do is have this enough that I'm going to travel with. Then when I come home, I can take out things, put things back in, and just refill it. It has a good assortment of the pieces that I am going to be working on, plus the tools that I need. So today I am going to show you how I have made this box. It is a simple box to make, and you're going to be able to customize it to the way you want it. So what I need to start with is a wooden box, and this is the same box. I did get this at my local dollar store, but you can also get them online and in craft and hobby stores. Now the size of the box that you are going to want will all depend on what you are working on. I do want a box that is deep enough so that my pieces are going to fit inside and not stick out. I also want a box that's going to fit nice on my lap, but that's not too big for my lap. So let me show you what I like to use to travel with. And I think this is the most important part, is choosing the box before we work on the box. So of course, I do want my English paper pieces, or if it's cross stitch, my cross stitch pieces. I do like to have a pair of scissors, a tape measure. I do have one of these little domes that has my needles threaded on it for me. A needle threader. This is a little pill box. It is my garbage container. A glue stick. A small little pin cushion. And I do have an extra one of these 2.5-inch squares. A package of needles. My directions. And then in this little pocket up at the top, I have my thread, a marking tool, and I do love lip gloss in there. And in my case, because I wear glasses, I do like eyeglass cleaners. So those are the major things that I do want in my box. Now the top of my box does have magnets and a pocket, and the box is divided. So we're going to be able to cover that as we go along. This particular box is 9 inches by 6.5 inches, and it is 3.5 inches high. To divide the box and make little divisions, I get these stir sticks from the store where I buy my paint, and they're wooden, they're thin, they're easy to cut. You're going to need about 3 or 4 of them. Now if you're going to want to have a handle, you're going to have to find a way of attaching it. So in this case, the screws are going to come through to the back, so I will need to add 2 holes to put those in. And when you do buy handles, the screws are designed to go into regular cupboards. So the wood is a lot thicker. So when you put that screw into the handle, you're going to see where we have this space. So we are going to need to either trim this screw down or get a smaller one. And if you bring your box and your handle to the hardware store, chances are they're going to be able to find a smaller screw for you. So now the decision is decorating the box. So for this one, I was able to buy a little sample of a household paint, something that I would paint the walls with. Now I did decorate the box with a wooden decal. So this was a spray paint. And inside, my dividers were also spray painted, but the rest of it was just that sample of household paint. Another option is spray paint. I'm going to put those dividers in with a hot glue gun. I'm going to need a screwdriver to take off those hinges, and I'm going to need magnets. And we're going to be cutting these little stir sticks, so we're going to need a little hacksaw. So now let's decide on how we are going to divide this up. I do want a pocket in the top and then some divisions. And dividing your box is really going to be a personal decision. But for me, the most important thing is that I'm able to store my pieces that I'm working on. So put those pieces down and judge the size. And in my case, it's 2 inches. So I know I'm going to want 2 inches apart. So I do want to mark these and cut them. So it's going to go right inside. I'm going to take the other little piece and cut it to 2 inches. And then another piece. When you cut these little ends, you are going to need to use a little piece of sandpaper and just sand off those edges. And I really find just a nail file works well. I'm going to sand off those edges, and I'm going to sand anything that feels a little rough on that box. So I play with different sizes, put some stuff in so that I know this is the way I'm going to want it. For the top, I'm going to want a pocket and some magnets. And to make my pocket, I'm going to need another one of those little sticks. But this time, it's going to lay flat. So I have all of my pieces cut and ready to go. I do like to prepare the handle spot before I paint it. So in this case, I need to find the center, put 2 holes in the box, and figure out where I'm going to want my handle. So I'm going to drill those holes and prepare this. And I'm going to take off these little pieces so that I can paint and prepare the box. While our paint is drying, let's work on this little pocket. The little pocket is going to start with a piece of wood that's going to fit inside. So this is the size of the box, and I'm going to need 2 pieces of fabric to go with it. The first piece, I'm going to need a piece that is 1/4 inch bigger on each side, and I have mine 4.5 inches. What will happen is on the back, this is going to get rolled over. So this piece that rolls over is going to get attached to the back. So the front, we need to make a pocket. I would recommend a piece 2 inches or even 2.5 inches longer, because we're going to gather this in a little bit. I do have mine at 4.5 inches, but I'm going to be able to adjust that. And we're going to put a piece of elastic in the top. So I have a thin piece of elastic, the same size as that board. For this top, I'm going to fold over a tiny little bit and then fold over one more time so that I'm making a little pocket for that elastic to go through, and stitch it down. Once that's stitched, just put that elastic through. We are going to need to stitch on that one side and the other so the elastic stays inside. We need to decide how deep we want it. Depending on the size of your container, you can change the size of this pocket. My pocket here is 2.5 inches. I'm going to cut my fabric to be 3 inches. With a little seam allowance, it'll be perfect. I don't mind it being a little bit bigger when I start with it, and that way I know exactly the size it is going to be when I hold it up to my box. So I'm just going to trim off that extra. So I have my little front pocket ready, and I'm going to sew it onto the background fabric, and I'm going to have the right side of that pocket touching the wrong side of that fabric. So when it's stitched together, you're going to be able to see both sides. So I'm going to stitch down 1/4 inch and just kind of gather that in as I go along and then come back up. So it's stitched on. When I turn it right side out, I have the good side here. And right here, I'm going to just trim to that seam allowance. So you have that 1/4 inch hanging out. If you'd like, you can do a row of top stitching It just looks really nice. So we have a little 1/4 inch sticking out on each side and the pockets. Now you can customize these pockets depending on what you're going to put in them. You can do rows of stitching to compartmentize them. I like to put a spool of thread in. So I do want a little line of stitching here. I don't want this too tight. So put whatever you want in, put the pin, take it out, and do a row of stitching. And I'll show you why I like this right here when I get that row of stitching done. So I have this little pocket where my thread is going to go. So I'm going to take the thread and I'm going to thread the needle from that spool of thread. Take that and have it come right out of that pocket. So the thread is going to go in. So as I want to thread something, I'm just going to pull out the length that I want, trim it, and leave a tail here. And that way I could just pull the next thread out. The spool of thread doesn't tangle, and I always know where my thread is. But I will do that after I get this attached onto the end of the unit. I'm going to be able to take that and just fold it, and I'm going to do just a little bit of hot glue to hold that fabric down. So I've taken that board and I've glued it on, and I can turn it over, and this is the area I'm going to be able to glue on top of that box. So I'm going to lay that down where I want it. So I'm just going to glue this wood down. Just press that glue down. So I'm only gluing the board on. So the pocket has a little flap, so I'll just put a little bit of glue just so the pocket doesn't flap around. One in the corner, just right along that edge, just so it stays nice and neat when I open my box. Now we have that pocket. It looks nice on both sides. We have that board keeping it all secure. And now I can add some magnets and glue them on. Now that the top is done, we're going to work on the bottom. I am putting a handle on, so I do have 2 holes. And I would recommend that you put those handles on first, as it's easier to put a screwdriver in this way than once you have those compartments in. Now that that handle is on, I'm going to be able to put those compartments back. So I do have a 2-inch space. So I'm going to take that and glue that on. Now that I have the one standing on its own, I'm going to glue on the next so it can stand on its own. So that is how mine is going to look like inside. So I'm going to glue the one on at a time. I'm going to do some hot glue. Press and hold for a second and do the next one. So I'm just putting it in place, slide it to where it's going to go, and then slide it down. And press and hold. I do like to add just a little bit of a hot glue on the sides just to help hold those in. Now I can put all of those hinges back on. Now my little suitcase is done. You can decorate the front, add corners on, add feet on. There's lots of options. But one thing that I would recommend is to let this dry at least 3 days. The paint might feel dry, but it hasn't cured yet. And the last thing we need is for that paint to seal that shut so that we can't open it, or we have paint transfer onto our fabric. Now that I finished the second one, I'm lucky to have 2 suitcases. This first one that you did see me in the car with, I have it set to make these little geraniums. So I'm just going to leave this alone. For the next one, I have a never-ending project. It is a quilt that I am making with as many different hexagons as possible. So for this box, I'm going to load that accordingly. I have some of my hexagons that are ready to go. I have my little garbage can from a pill box, and I did cover it. The accessories, pins, everything that I need is right here. And instead of one spool of thread, I put in 2 bobbins. I just have 2 small bobbins, one in black and one in white. So I could just pop those in. I still have the thread coming out, so I can easily thread my needles. And along this inside, I added a little piece of trim. I just took a little piece of ribbon and glued it in with some tacky glue. Now this is ready for me to go and travel. I do like that this is a wooden box. It is strong. I don't have to worry about it breaking. I like the size. It's going to fit on my lap. It keeps everything safe. It's handy, just like a little suitcase. Can you imagine all of the different colors and designs that we could turn these into? So to answer everyone on Facebook, this is what I travel with. It is my little craft box, sort of like a suitcase. It fits perfect on my lap. I customize it to the project that I'm working on. They're inexpensive to do, and there's such a joy opening this up and sitting while I'm working. Thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. Feel free to subscribe. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter. It's all free under Sew Very Easy. And be sure to make every day a Sewtacular day. Bye for now.